I spend 1 to 2 minutes on the foam roller, loosening up my quads and then also into my glutes.
Tensor fascial lata, TFL for short, helps to abduct the hip, internally rotate, so medially rotate the hip, and can also help out in hip flexion as well.
So what we're going to do here, we're going to come down onto the TFL, which is slightly on the lateral side of the body, but it's also kind of internal as opposed to right directly on the side. So it's right about here, okay, and we're going to just start to kind of open this up. So for some people, this might be enough.
Gently topple sideways into the wall and support yourself on that inside arm. From there, what I want you to do is to bring the opposite side, so the outside leg, across the inside leg, so you're stepping forward with it.
Exercise, we're going to look at a hip flexor stretch. This kneeling version is one of my favorites. So again, the hip flexor's on the front side of the hip. What we're going to do to stretch these is the leg that's down is the one we're going to stretch, so you should feel this on the front side here. To set this up, you want to squeeze your abdominal muscles and your glutes before you do anything. Squeezing those two creates posterior pelvic tilt, which will help to stretch the hip flexors. So first, squeeze your abs, squeeze your glutes, and then what you're going to do is shift forward slightly without extending your back. Try not to hyperextend your low back. So that when you squeeze your abs, it should help prevent that. Squeeze your abs, squeeze your glutes, create that posterior pelvic tilt, and then just lunge forward slightly until you feel a stretch here on the front of the thigh and the front of the hip.
What I'm going to show you today is just a quick dynamic range of motion series. You're going to hit 10 to 15 reps of each of these drills and move continuously from start to finish to continue warming the body. After that, you're just going to move on to your specific barbell warm-up for whatever the first exercise is you're doing that day. With the wrist circles, keep your palms together and your forearms as close as possible to make sure you're getting the full range. Make sure you get your elbows fully extended in each circle, and also pronate and supinate your hands as you come around to make sure you get as much movement at the ulna and radius as possible. Keep your palms facing forward and your arms at about shoulder height. Protract your shoulder blades as you come across the front and retract as you come back. Keep your trunk locked in tight to make sure the movement's coming from the shoulders and not from hinging at the mid to lower back, and squeeze your shoulder blades together at the top and bottom of each swing. Use momentum to get the biggest range of motion possible on these circles, and also make sure the shoulder blades are moving up, forward, down, and back as you come around. Again, use momentum to carry you through the biggest range of motion possible, and be sure that you're rotating at the upper back, not just the lower back. These might be embarrassing, but they're less embarrassing than looking like the Tin Man when you're trying to squat. Keep your glutes tight and reach your hips forward as far as possible as you come around. Unlock your knees slightly as you come forward. Let your back round and hinge at the hip as well. As you come back, squeeze your glutes tight to make sure that you're actually stretching out the hip flexors and not just hyperextending the lower back. Lean a little bit onto the knees and help guide them in the circles with your hands. Lean all your weight over the thigh and make sure you keep your foot flat to stretch the calves instead of the midfoot. If you can't hold this squat position, put your other leg behind you into a lunge.
This next hip opener is very important to me because if I can't get my hips to flex maximally, I know that I'm not going to get bailed out by my poor dorsiflexion. So here I use the barbell as a counterweight and sit as upright as possible and try to hit maximal depth. From this position, I actively drive my elbows out into the knees and I hold it for 20 to 30 seconds.
Next thing is leg swings. I do 8 each direction on each leg, forward, sideways, and then forward again with a curl to warm up my hamstring and to lengthen out my quad a bit.
This first one is called the multiplanar lunge, and this is great because it really activates the sartorius in each plane of motion. So you're going to do a forward lunge, bringing your knee to the ground, then a side lunge, and then what's called a transverse lunge, making sure you keep that front ankle planted. You're going to do about 5 to 10 reps per side in each direction, 3 sets.
Showing you here is a mini band side step. Very simple. I got the heaviest resistance here, your black band. Throw it on those ankles of yours. And what you're doing is you're going to load one leg. So I'm going to be stepping out to my right. My left leg is going to be loading all my weight. So what I'm going to be doing here is step out, step in, step out, step in, okay? That's all it is, extending my right leg out, keeping my center of gravity over my left side. Switch to the other side, shift your weight towards that right, okay? Trying to extend out as far as I can. Control on the way back in. That's it.